Hello, everyone. I, of course, am Christine Gritmon, and this is Let's Talk About Brand. I do this show every single Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time, or maybe it's 9 a.m. Pacific Time, maybe it's 5 p.m. over in the UK. Let us know where you're watching us from, what time it is over there, and most of all, let us know if you're watching on Facebook or Twitter, or if you're watching live or on the replay. I hope we get some good live conversation going today. I'm very excited about our guest. Today we are going to be talking about nourishing your personal brand and your professional network, because the two are very much intertwined. We had a great conversation about this over on my Twitter chat on Tuesday, Chat About Brand, and today we're going to be discussing it with an expert in networking, John Ferrara. John Ferrara co-founded one of the first ever CRM softwares, Goldmine, and now he runs Nimble. The really cool thing about Nimble, we were just talking about this before we went on air, is that it connects social platforms, it connects all sorts of different places, so you get a much fuller profile of people. There's a lot more listening in there. But we're going to talk in general about the importance of your personal brand, networking, how they go together, how one nourishes the other. So without any further ado, let's bring him on, John Ferrara from Nimble. Hey! Welcome. And you were saying before we went live that you love that it says guest star. We have a little musical note for that later in the show, but I mean, it's true. I really like bringing people who are shining stars and know how to put themselves out there onto this show. So thank you so much for being here today.
You bet, Christine. I love to have conversations about how to power others, because I think that we're here on this planet to grow, and we grow best by powering other people. And I think everybody's a star. Everybody has a star in them. They just need to find their star and polish it up and let people see it. Be proud of your stardom, you know?
I'm a star. I've literally got stars.
I think that people get too focused on these like Kardashian influencer things, and they forget that there's millions of influencers out there, and accessing them is easy if you're human and you connect with a purpose, and not the purpose of making money off people, but somehow adding value to them.
Absolutely. That is so important. And that's what's really key to being a good networker. You know what? Actually, let's start there. How do you define a good networker, John?
Well, I think it starts with your purpose, right? It's like, I think that we're not on this planet to make money. We're on this planet to make memories out of moments that we're truly present with other people. And a good networker isn't somebody that is leading with how much I can get from you, but how much I can give to you. And it's just really as simple as that. And I think that the more that you give, the more that you get naturally. I think that Zig Ziglar or Dale Carnegie said that. The more people you help grow, the more you grow. And I think a perfect example of a bad networker is when you accept a LinkedIn connection and they send you an offer, or, you know, like they want to sell you something. And it's like, before you start selling anybody something, what you should do is get to know them, figure out who they are and what they're about, and find ways to add value to them, pay them forward first. That's a good networker.
Absolutely. So how do you put yourself in that position to know where you can bring value? Or even, I mean, of course, we all want to get value back too, ultimately, in some way.
Right.
How do you suss out how to put yourself in that circumstance?
Well, visualize this. I like to talk in sort of metaphors. So visualize that you are in the middle of a social river. There's just this big river running by you, your business, your home, whatever it is. And what you want to do is that'll teach you to put your phones on D&D. What you want to do is you want to get in the middle of that river and begin to drip knowledge on a daily basis in order to establish yourself as a trusted advisor and stay top of mind with not just your prospects and customers, but ideally their influencers as well. And so what you want to do is you want to be able to be seen And the best way to be seen is not be out there selling, but to be out there giving away your knowledge, because you've forgotten more about your products and services than your customers will ever know in their lives. And if all you do on a daily basis is inspire and educate others about how you might help them become better, smarter, faster, what will happen is people will start seeing you as somebody who adds value and start to connect and have conversations with you. And some people just don't know how to say no.
You're in demand, John. You've got a big network.
I actually have my computer on D&D, and it's still ringing through.
Oh, well. Well, that brings me actually to the next thing I want to ask you about, which is being human, because that's a very human thing that just happened there.
It is. And just to be a little human, I'm just going to message this person. I have a cousin in Sicily who's trying to get their daughter into a school in California, and they've just been dealing with a really bad situation, and I'm trying my best to help them.
There's a lot of runaround. Which is yet another reason why it's good to know people.
I think there's a lot of companies that prey on foreign students who dream about the American dream. Mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate, but we won't go down that road. Your question was?
So you mentioned how one of the ways that you can be, valuable person to have in people's networks, and one of the ways that you can bring value to people is by being that steady drip, drip, drip of knowledge. But at the same time, if all you do is kind of post things that are like, here's a tip.
That's it. Right.
Yeah, I want to talk about how to bring in that more human and engaging side besides just providing information.
So here's another analogy. So there's that social river running by your business, and there's all these fish swimming by. And what you want to do is you want to drip lures into the water in order to start conversations. And the biggest mistake you can make as somebody who's trying to build their brand and grow their network by establishing an identity in the places where your prospects and customers and their influencers have conversations and drip knowledge is not to listen and engage, because that's the key right there. You can't just spew stuff out there. You've got to listen for people that it connects with, that it resonates with, who then engage with you and then respond to them in a way that is human, with not the intent to sell them, but to ideally get to know them and find ways to add value to them. But the key is, when you drip the knowledge, it's like a lure into the river. You don't want to basically drop the hook in there with the bait on it and just leave it, not touch it. So the fish comes and nibbles it. If you don't pull it in, then basically they'll just nibble the bait and swim away. And so the whole point of dripping knowledge is to start conversations. And these conversations will result in relationships that will help you achieve your dreams. But the best way to do that is help other people achieve their dreams, which is the human listening engagement with the intent to help others grow.
And I love what you said about how if we just drop the lure in and that's it, if you put stuff out there that's with an eye towards it being consumed, it will just be consumed and that's it. If you put something out there with an eye towards starting a conversation, then you can reel it in a non-sleazy way. You can just give them more and more. I would love to connect this premise of being valuable, bringing value, and of starting conversations and deepening those relationships specifically into focus with how it relates to your personal brand. So we like to say that everyone has a personal brand, whether they know it or not. It's just a matter of how much control you take over it. So how does this connect in your mind to networking?
Well, what it does is help you become top of mind. Mae West said, out of sight is out of mind, and out of mind is out of money, honey. So if you're not in the middle of the river, starting those conversations, you won't be seen. I remember the trade shows that we used to go to back in the gold mine days, and a lot of people would set up a booth and stand in their booth. No, we didn't do that. At Gold Mine, we would stand in the middle of the aisle with a show special and start conversations and pull people into the booth. How many times have you walked by a main street and seen a store where somebody's sitting behind the counter looking at their phone or whatever they're doing, and they're waiting for people to come in the door and nobody's coming in? That is friggin' sad. And so if you want to be seen and heard, you need to get out in the river and start conversations. The best way to do that is to give your knowledge away. The worst thing you could do is to shout at people about how great you are or your products are. And I've seen that too much. What you should do is you should be shouting about how you can help other people grow, because people don't buy great products. They buy better versions of themselves. And what you want to do is put your customers and your prospects at the center of your storytelling and make them the hero and show them how you can grow. And if you do that, then when they want your products or services, they'll not only pick up the phone and call you, but they'll drag their friends with them. And that is the magic. But the problem is if you do what I'm telling you to do, which is establish an identity in the places where your prospects and customers have their conversations, and you share knowledge in order to inspire and educate others about how you can help them grow, and you listen and engage with the intent to connect and build relationships where you could find ways to add value, you're going to have tens of thousands of connections. And at some point, you're going to get overwhelmed with contacts, and you won't be able to find the needle in the haystack. So in addition to building your personal brand and growing your professional network, you need to start to manage and organize that network effectively. So if you are going to go speak in New York City about social selling, you can easily segment your database of people that match that criteria and outreach to them to invite them to come and meet with you and to join you in that conversation.
I love that. There's so much to digest there. I especially love that quote about people don't buy great products. They buy a better version of themselves. So
yeah, I love that one too.
So here's my question. Let's say a lot of people, I know the whole point of being a great networker is it involves doing that extra step that not everyone will do. But let's say there's a lot of great networkers out there. There's a lot of people who are doing that drip, drip, drip of value. Let's say I'm following 1,000 people who are doing exactly what you said. How can you differentiate? That's really what I want to know.
Yeah. It was just in my mind. You're a mind reader. So how many times have you seen somebody's identity, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram, where it's all business, right? It's like all they do is spew business stuff, but they're never sharing any of their heart and soul. I like to say that people connect on the five F's of life: family, friend, food, fun, and fellowship. These are the softer sides. And if you share what you're passionate about beyond your business passions, like for me, it might be backpacking, barbecue, astronomy, photography, family. These are some of the things, history, geography. These are some of the things that I really dig. And I share pictures of the things I cook. I share pictures of the mountains I climb. I share pictures of my family. And what happens is when people see you as a thought leader in and around the areas of promise of your products and services, and then they reach in and connect with you further, because these soft connections start on Twitter and then they move to a place like Instagram and Facebook if you're doing it right, then they'll see your personal side and they'll bond with you. So here's an example. In the old days, when I used to go in somebody's office, I used to say, I teach my salespeople, look at people's walls, look at the books they read, the degree of the school they went to, the knickknacks they collect. And I did that in order to teach them that you can share what you have in common with them, so that it then builds intimacy and trust and gets them to open up to you about their business issues, which then as a professional, you can then solve. And so in order to answer your question in a succinct manner, to differentiate yourself from everybody else who's spewing knowledge to inspire and educate others about how they can help them grow, share your heart, share your soul, share what you're about in a human way. And this is what will build the deeper connections that will outlast any business burps that could happen in the process of a business relationship.
And it sounds like that's also really the difference, the thing that makes that leap between networking and relationship building, because they're not the same thing.
No, because you've had a business relationship before with people where you might have sent them a proposal, they signed it, you delivered a service, but you don't really know who they are and they don't really know you.
Yeah.
And but then there's other people where you've taken them to dinner or a ball game or to your house or whatever it is.
Or we stay super friendly after our work is done. We still hang out, we still talk. Yeah.
Like I used to have virtual like wine sipping things with Mia Voss back in the day.
I
And
love
it's like,
her.
it's like, this is how you sort of connect with people. You do the more personal things with them. And I like to say that the more digital we get, the more human we need to be. Brian
Yeah.
Kramer, thank you very much. And that's why you need to take your digital relationships into face to face. And so I'm going to give you an example of a story where I took that sort of leap where I was dripping knowledge. Somebody started talking about me in Twitter, and I was able to take that connection and bring it to face, because this will basically wrap it up as a great example. So as I share knowledge on a daily basis, how people can become better, smarter, faster in and around the areas of promise of the products and services that we build here at Nimble. And so social sales and marketing, thought leadership are kinds of things that we share. And so there was somebody in Twitter saying in response to a Salesforce executive who said, CRM isn't about command and control. It's about building relationships. And this guy said, no, bullshit. It is about command and control. When a sales manager is going to loosen their grip? And isn't that what John Ferrara has been building and teaching with Nimble? And so Nimble actually listens to the Twitter stream and then surfaces people that match the fingerprint of people that I should connect to who are touching my identity. And it said, John, you should go check this person out. But more than that, it actually built a record for them so that when I was in the Twitter stream, I used the Nimble plugin to highlight the person's name, which his name was Theo, I think, Theo Rand. And it turned out that he was the head of data and CRM at Disney. And so I was able to respond more appropriately to the person because I knew who he was and what he did. But more importantly, Nimble gave me his email. And because of the way he was talking about me, I then reached out to thank him for the way he spoke about me on Twitter. And so the conversation started softly on Twitter, shifted to email, eventually to a LinkedIn connection, a LinkedIn messaging. And eventually in the LinkedIn messaging, I learned that not only did his daughter go to my school, but my kid's school, but that he lived in my neighborhood. So I invited him for breakfast. And so then it shifted to a calendar appointment, and then it shifted to face, where I learned about him. And we became not only friends, but business relationships as well. And that's an example of how the soft sharing that you create can turn into a connection where that turns into face-to-face that results in a measurable, mutually beneficial outcome. But none of this works unless you have a process and unless you are effective at identifying people in the moment of the conversation, which is why you need to take the time to research the people who you're connecting with, and then take those connections deeper that match the criteria of people that matter most to you. I lost your audio.
Whoops, sorry.
There
That
it is.
example, I have an example of that from just 2 days ago. I was on a call with a prospective client, and we met through a Facebook group that has people in a whole bunch of areas. And while we were on the call, I was looking at her other places that she is on the internet, and I said, wait a second, you're in Nyack? I'm in Nyack. And we discovered our kids are in the same grade at the same school. And
Yeah.
we wouldn't have known that because it's not how we connected. And yet we had that additional connection, and it made us even more eager to help each other, honestly.
Exactly. And this kind of circles back to, how do you differentiate yourself from all the other people who have learned to build their identity in the places where their prospects have conversations, to drip knowledge, to establish themselves as a trusted advisor. Okay, great. That's a formula that millions of people probably are doing today.
Yeah.
But then how do you take it a step further? And I think it's becoming more human. And I think that here's one more example. I was connecting with the head of a company called Inside Sales. I think they changed their name, but basically it's a enterprise power dialing system out of Utah. And before meeting with him, I nimbled him, and Nimble told me that he had two sons who were Eagle Scouts, and that he was an assistant scoutmaster. So it turns out that I have two sons who are Eagle Scouts, and I was an assistant scoutmaster for 8 years. And there's nothing that is more bonding than an experience that two fathers share with their children as well. And when I shared that with this person, the relationship shifted almost immediately. And he then invited me to come to his corporate headquarters and meet his co-founder to discuss some further biz dev issues. And that's what you need to do by looking at somebody's walls digitally, finding the things that you have in common, share that with that person to build the intimacy and trust. But most importantly, the follow-up and follow-through is critical to your personal brand and professional network, because your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And your brand will grow when you deliver on what you promise, and it will shrink when you don't. And that is the problem with what we're teaching right now, is if you do build an identity where your prospects and customers have conversations, you drip knowledge, you engage with the intent to help people grow, but then in those meetings, you don't follow up and follow through on the things that you promised to do, nothing happens. You're done. And but if you do, magic happens.
It also points out the importance of accuracy and honesty in personal branding, because if you're putting out that content on social media or wherever you're distributing these nuggets of knowledge, and then they get you in a room and it doesn't come out of you, like you can't do it off the top of your head.
Yeah.
That speaks volumes. You have to be you in real life, because the whole point of this online presence should be to get in a room in real life, should be to get in a real life conversation where the messages aren't as prepared and you can converse as a person.
Yes. Amen. Don't fake it till you make it.
No. So I have a couple questions, and you were wonderful. I always ask as my last question on my Twitter chat on Tuesdays, chat about brand. The last question is always to see if anyone has questions for my Friday live stream guest, and you actually were kind enough to answer them on Twitter, which was awesome. But I'm going to ask them here today too. So first of all, Manisha wants to know, what would be the one piece of advice you would give to newbies in terms of creating and building a network with no prior connections? Because it can be disappointing when you focus on analytics, when you just look at how many people are in your network. But what should she be focusing on if starting from scratch? I don't believe in starting from scratch. Every human knows other humans. But in theory, starting from scratch, where should she start if she wants to grow strong?
So what I would do if I was a person just starting out in social media, trying to build my brand and grow my network, is I would start by identifying where my prospects, my customers, and their influencers have conversations.
How do you find that out? How do you identify that?
So what I do is I find influencers in and around the areas of promise around products and services, and I see where they hang out, and I see what content they share, and I see what hashtags they use. But another way to do it is go use a tool like BuzzSumo. BuzzSumo, you type in a search like wine or houses or real estate or CRM, and it'll tell you which influencers have most reach and resonance, what content has most reach and resonance, and where those conversations are happening. So that's what I do to start. And then I'd go and build an identity in those places. And then you've already done the research of what content and what influencers have the most reach and resonance, is I'd start sharing those influencers' content, and I'd hashtag the category appropriately. So pound wine, pound CRM, whatever thing category you're in. And then I'd attribute the person's name, so that not only people looking to be better, smarter, faster in those areas of products and services, for me, it's pound social sales and marketing, will find you, but the audience of the influencer will start to connect with you as well. And ideally the influencer themselves. And all of these connections are opportunities to take the thing further. So what you need to do is, I like to have my coffee in the morning, and I read knowledge about my industry because I'm passionate about it. And the things that I dig, I share it in the morning. So say 30, 40 minutes of that. And then in the afternoon, I'll listen to people that are engaging. And then what I'll do is I will build records for the ones that have high reach and resonance for me, and then reach out to them and initiate further conversation. And I think the biggest thing for that next step in the conversation is, if you do schedule some type of digital meeting like we're having now, face-to-face, is you prepare before the meeting, you learn about who they are and what they're about, and you get ready with some decent questions, and you ask questions and then shut the F up and listen. Because if you let somebody talk, they'll tell you what you need to know in order to add value. And people will fall in love with you if you just let them talk, because everybody wants to be seen, heard, liked, and loved. And so if you just listen, and they will tell you what you need to know in order to add value. And then at the end of that, you might say, well, gosh, Christine, I think that you might dig meeting my friend David Meerman Scott and having him on the show, because he really is a great talker about this thing called newsjacking. And you might dig that as a way of teaching marketing. And then what happens is the person will say, well, gosh, John, I really enjoyed this conversation. Tell me about yourself. And that's your opportunity to share what you're doing. And then ultimately at the end, you have found ways to add value, and then follow up and follow through. Send that introduction, do what you say you're going to do, and then rinse and repeat. Here is a simple formula about relationships. It takes the majority of fuel to get a car to 60. It takes the majority of fuel to get a rocket into orbit. It takes much less to maintain the relationship. And so what you want to do is set a touch cycle with people where you say, well, gosh, if I haven't spoken to Christine in, say, 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, whatever the number is, remind me to reach out. And you don't necessarily need to call them or email them. In fact, emails might be the worst thing to do. What you probably want to do is walk in the digital footprint and somehow add value to the conversation. And that's how you stay top of mind with people, is to every once in a while just reach out and say, hey, Christine, I see you, I hear you, I dig you, and I dig what you're doing there. You know, it's just simple human stuff.
Perfection. By the way, if you do want to hook me up with any fancy pants guests, I am always down for an introduction.
You know what? Look at my LinkedIn network. I have a lot of fancy pants in my network, and I'm happy to do any introduction you need.
Anyone who's got insights on elements of branding, especially the more human, the better, I'm down for. So last question from another of our Chat About Brand participants. Dave Bednar wants to know, John, what's the one thing, if you could just say one thing, that people can easily do today, like literally go do it right now, to deepen their connections online?
Okay. So if you build a LinkedIn connection with me, it's like walking in my business lobby. You're going to learn the business persona of John, but we're not going to really have a deep connection. To have a deep connection with John, go on a walk to the beach with me, right? Have a conversation. And so what I'm basically saying is, take your business connections for the people you dig and bring them into a softer side, the Twitter, the Facebook, the Instagram, where you can begin to learn about what they're really about, their personal side, and to build that personal, deeper connection. And that will outlast any business issue that you might ever have in your life. So the one simple thing I'd say is, take the business relationships that you have that matter beyond the LinkedIn lobby and bring them into the personal sides of Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
Love that. Yeah, that has definitely made a huge difference for me personally, especially because on my website, for example, people say, oh, don't link out to your social sites on your website. You want to keep them on the site. I don't. I'm bringing value to my social community. That's where I show up. That's where I turn up all day, every day. So I do want you to go there, because we're much more likely to develop a relationship if you go there than if I just keep you on my website for a longer period of time.
Yeah, because life isn't about business. It's like I said earlier, life isn't about making money. It's about making memories out of moments. You're not going to take the money with you. They're not going to write on my gravestone in Pioneer CRM and made money. They're going to say, beloved friend, father, husband, these kind of things. And ultimately, that's what matters. So I'm going to tell you a little story. A year after I sold Goldmine for a lot, I got a head tumor and almost died. And, you think about it a lot when you are very sick. And one of the things that I did, besides doing the Eastern and Western medicine in order to survive, is I did some spiritual growth. And I came to the conclusion that I'm on this planet to grow my soul in the brief period of time that I'm here. And the best way that I found to grow my soul is by helping other people grow theirs, rinse and repeat. And so if you don't remember anything I said today, remember this, that I think we're all on this planet to grow our souls. And the best way to grow your soul is by helping other people grow theirs. And the best way to grow your soul is by being present with other people, especially people who love you. Because if you're present with people who love you, they'll reflect your shit back at you. And if you're willing to look at your shit in life and work on it, that's how you grow.
Beautiful. Oh, this was so perfect, John. I'm so glad you were here with us today.
All right, is it tune time?
It is tune time. John,
Okay.
you said that you loved being a guest star, not just a guest. You love being a star, and I love helping people be stars. So
here's a little Motown. This was a band called Sly and the Family Stone. I think Tina Turner was in this band.
Everybody is a star.
Woo!
Through the rain, chase the dust away. Everybody wants to shine.
Can you dig that?
I
They don't make music
can.
like this
If it
anymore.
weren't for copyright issues, I'd totally start using that and stuff. Well, maybe we should see what I can get away with. I hope Facebook doesn't mute this video.
Maybe our talking over all this stuff does it. Otherwise, you'll have to cut the music out.
I mean, we'll see how it goes. But, I mean, my odds are pretty good. So, John, tell the good folks at home where they should find you and why.
Okay, you know what? This is actually another tip for you. Google yourself today. Just type in your name into Google. And do you show up on the first page? If not, you could fix that. Just build a Wikipedia page for yourself. It's free and it's easy. You just need to do it properly. You need to cite external articles in your article. But if you do that, then you'll have a little box that sits next to the screen on the first page where they'll see your avatar, they'll see your bio, they'll see your links and background. And so if you want to know about me, Google me, JONFERRARA, and connect with me on whatever channel is comfortable for you. Or here, I'm going to be easy for you. My email is jon@nimble.com. You want to reach out to me? Boom, there it is. And the last thing is, if you are not managing your personal brand and professional network, if you don't have a golden Rolodex, if you don't have a personal CRM, go sign up for Nimble today. And if you dig what it's all about, here's a code, JON40, John 40, and you can get 40% off your first 3 months.
Nice. Well, thank you so much. This was awesome. This was amazing. Love this. Thank you so much for being on. And want to make sure everyone knows that I am here every single Friday at 12 noon Eastern on Facebook and Twitter, but I also show up every single Tuesday at 12 noon Eastern time for my Twitter chat about brand. They're on the same topic every week. So this coming Tuesday, we are talking about building a brand with care, not just taking advantage of every possible opportunity, but really cautiously protecting your brand and only doing things that really align with it so that you can go stronger rather than just faster. And we have some great experts to talk about that. My real life friends, Elizabeth and Ethan Finkelstein. Elizabeth has actually been on my show before. She was on my old show, Social, talking about how she built her brand, Circa, later to be accompanied by a spin-off, Cheap Old Houses, that has really blown up. And now Elizabeth and Ethan are going to be on to talk about how they've had all sorts of opportunities to grow the Circa brand and especially the Cheap Old Houses brand through the years. They are launching a show with HGTV this July, but that's not the first time they've had offers like that. They were really cautious about how they built their brand because they respect the community that they have built so much. So we're going to talk about that next Friday, and I hope you will be there for it. Bye!